Thank you for joining us today for our DIY product line webinar. Today we're going to be talking about our new DIY product line. I'm Sue Stankovitz, and today Ryan Stankovitz is going to teach us about the new line. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to put them into the question box, and we'll answer those along the way as we go. Ryan?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out of the day and coming over here and listening to us talk about our new DIY line. So, what is it? What is the Midnite DIY line? So it's a new line of power electronics. We saw that there was a need in the market to try to help bring a little higher quality, low-end power electronics to the market. And this is what our goal is here. We've got some products that we've been testing extensively for over 5 years. There's some inverters with charge controllers built in and just some basic charge controllers, some Bluetooth modules. And we partnered with a company out of China to get these in-house. And we're offering, Midnite tech support and Midnite warranty. So that's really the key, is that we're going to stand behind these products. We're not, you're not buying something on eBay that's going to then have no support at all. So we're going to go through these, and we're going to tell you a little bit about what we got going on. So the first one that we currently have is a 60 amp, 150 volt charge controller. It has an LCD display with push buttons. It does 12, 24, 48 volt auto detection on the battery. So when you hook it up to the battery, it'll auto detect the proper battery voltage. If the battery's, not completely dead or way overcharged or something, you can override that if need be. But right out of the box, if you connect it to a sealed battery and hook PV to it, it just turns on and works. There's no programming needed if the sealed battery set points are correct. Of course, we always do encourage you to look at the battery specs and make sure you program that correctly. It is overcurrent protected, so a lot like the Classic and the Kid, you can overdrive it a little bit and not have to worry. And it is reverse polarity protected on the PV side. So it is not over voltage protected, just like any other charge controller, but it is reverse polarity protected. There is a Bluetooth module that you can get to go with this. Then there's a cell phone app that you can use for monitoring and programming when you're within Bluetooth range, which is with line of sight is probably around 50 feet. So there's a screenshot of that cell phone app. They are lithium battery compatible. You can turn the absorb down to, I want to say, 5 minutes. And all the other set points are fully adjustable, just like the Classic. And they do come with a 2-year warranty directly from Midnite. So with all of these products, if there is a problem, we would be taking care of that problem right out of our facility in Washington State. So we move into our inverter charger with MPPT. So the current offerings on these two are, we'll talk about them in a minute, but we have 2 models that we're currently offering. They both have charge controls built in, as well as a inverter and a charger from the utility grid or generator. That's an all-in-one box. If you're doing a little off-grid cabin or a small off-grid house, this is all you need. You hook your batteries up to it, hook your loads up to it, your generator up to it, your PV modules up to it. They do come with several different modes. So there's like a solar first mode if you're trying to offset utility usage. There's a UPS mode if you're trying to use them to back up some loads like a computer. Of course, there's off-grid mode and then a few others. They do not sell to the grid. They are lightweight. I forget the actual weight, but they are high-frequency inverters, so they're pretty lightweight, easy to hang on the wall. And the inverters come with a 1-year warranty by Midnite Solar. So we'll talk about the specific models that we offer now, and then we're going to tell you a little bit about what we've got coming in the very near future with these. So we have a 3,000-watt, 24-volt inverter charger with a 60-amp, 100-volt MPPT charge controller built in. So this box has about a 6,000-watt surge rating. It is pure sine wave, of course. And it also has a 40-amp AC charger, if you're connected to the grid or you have a portable generator. So 6,000-watt surge, 3,000-watt continuous, with a 60-amp charge controller and a 40-amp charger from the utility grid. And then we have kind of the same thing, only 48 volt. So you have a 3500 watt, 48 volt model of this, 7,000 watt surge rating, again, pure sine wave. This one has a built-in 80 amp, 145 volt MPPT charge controller and a built-in 30 amp AC charger. Katie's asking me, yeah, that is a typo on my slides. That 30 amps should be DC into the battery. So it's an AC charger, but it is DC current into the battery. You are correct. So the previous slide, this last bullet point here is 40 amps. That's how many amps the AC charger can put into the battery. It'll be 40 amps DC. And then this one is 30 amps DC from the AC charger. So that's it in a nutshell on those two. What we have coming on that is you have a full line of E-panels coming for these. Make it a lot easier to install. There'll be an optional bypass if you want it. The next order of these that we have inbound, probably about 2 months from now, will carry a UL listing actually. So that will be really nice. And we believe the next order will be stackable for 120/240. If you want to put two of them, together to make 120/240, you could do that. The current models are all 120 volt only. The other thing we have coming is a 5,000 watt, 48 volt with a 500 volt MPPT internally. So it's a lot like this one right here, except it'll be 5,000 watts with a 10,000 watt surge. And it'll have a little bit bigger AC charger, and it'll have I believe it's a 80 amp, 500 volt MPPT charge controller. So that's sort of, in a nutshell, where we're at with the new products. They're pretty simple product. They're easy to install, easy to program. Not a lot really to talk about on them. They're an inverter charger, or a charge controller. Like I said, we have been doing a lot of testing for well over 5 years, really, beating the daylights out of them, see what they can do. We had the 60 amp charge controller running with roughly 120 amps of PV on it for several months, and it just didn't care. It just kept going and going and going. So we're really happy with the quality of these. We think it's going to be a great offering. We think it's going to be helpful for all you guys out there. So much so that we're vesting into this a lot. We have hired another salesperson, Brandy, and Brandy comes to us from Outback, and she's going to be our liaison for what we call installers and tier 2 distribution. So that's basically going to be her job, is to go out and educate everybody on the DIY line as it goes and help them connect with our vendors that do stock and sell this product. So we're really excited about that as well. So that's kind of where we're at on the DIY line. I'm going to move into a little bit more on all the rest of the new products and see if we can answer any questions. I don't know if before we get into the existing, get away from the DIY line, does anybody have any questions on the DIY line before I move into all the new products? Okay, if you do as we go ahead and put them in the question pane and I'll answer those for you. So most of you probably know that we have several new products in process. We have SunSpec certified rapid shutdown. We have a couple different 600 volt charge controllers. We have a couple different inverters and even a lithium battery in process. So I wanted to go through and just kind of give everybody a 1,000-foot overview of where we're at on those new products, which one of those, where we're at on each one of those. In that particular picture there, actually last week, we had an engineer out here at our facility in Maine. They always like to come out here because we have all the real world stuff. We have grid tie inverters, we have batteries, we have loads, and they love to come out here and really play around and learn what's going on. So we had Mario out here for over a week, and that's what my power shed looked like when Mario got ready to leave. And we do have one question about a specific E-panel for the DIY, and if so, what is the model number? We don't actually have a model number yet. The engineer is finishing up the drawings on it as we speak, and then we have to order sheet metal and get it off to be ETL listed. So I would expect you'll see the model numbers and stuff show up on the website probably in another 2 to 3 weeks, and Sue will be sending out a constant contact on that as we do. And DIY products are all indoor rated, just like the Classic or the Kid. Nothing outdoors. So I'm not sure the NEMA rating, other than I'd say probably just one, type 1. So we'll dive a little bit into SunSpec. SunSpec is an interesting topic nowadays, I guess is the way to say it. There's been some controversy in the market. A particular manufacturer of another rapid shutdown device has started suing everybody that makes rapid shutdown. It's going to be interesting, to say the least, but we're all still plodding forward. Our testing is complete. We have finalized all of our testing, and we are now in the process of listing the SunSpec models. We have several different models. We're doing a string level 600 volt, a string level 1000 volt, and we're doing a module level. The string level ones were predominantly done for Canada, but here in the US we have I'll probably get this UL standard wrong, but I believe it's 3741. You can get all of the components listed as an assembly, and if you do that, you don't necessarily have to comply to the less than 80 volt portion of rapid shutdown. You only have to bring the conductors leaving the array down below 30 volts. So a lot of manufacturers are starting to go down that road. Some of the roofing manufacturers that make solar shingles. So there's going to be more and more of a market for the string level models as well. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot of testing with SMA and Fronius, actually. Both of those companies have been having a hard time finding rapid shutdown devices that they're comfortable with. So we've just been sending product back and forth. We've been engineers on the phone together, and both companies are very happy with ours, so that's exciting. We think we've got this one dialed right in. And another thing to keep an eye on is I think that you might start to see in the future SunSpec may become required by manufacturers. And what I mean by that is, like, when we release our new charge controller, we may tell you that we only support SunSpec certified rapid shutdown devices. What that means for all you guys in a nutshell, be it an installer, a distributor, wherever you are in the market of solar, it means that when you see that SunSpec logo, you can be certain that the products work together and have been tested together. So if you see an SMA inverter that says it's SunSpec compliant, and you see a Midnite receiver that says it's SunSpec compliant, you don't have to worry about those two working together. You should be very comfortable with that. So that's something to keep an eye on. If I figure out how to advance my slides, we'll go on to the next one. So the Hawke's Bay, probably one of the more sought after questions we get is, where are you at on your new products? Where's the charge controls? Where's the inverters? So the Hawke's Bay is the smallest of the new charge controllers. It is 600 volts, 120 amps. Oh, I say small. It's still a pretty robust charge controller. Offsite, we've been offsite beta testing since December of 2020. We have several non-Midnite beta sites. So we have several sites that are actually just not Midnite employees or anything. It's actually people that are testing for us. A couple of these are actually some of our distributors. So we're getting a lot of feedback. We're going to ETL most likely July of this year, so next month. And we're going to start large-scale deployment of beta testing, the beta test program, this week. So those of you that have been around while we did the Classic can remember that we had a large beta program where you could buy a Classic for a very reduced price. It came with a lifetime warranty, get in on the entry level of it, and help, do what you can with designing it and menus and just feedback, if you will. So we're going to be doing the same thing with all the new products, for sure. One thing that I will say is I do believe that production will be a little limited for a while. There's several fronts to that have an effect. One is getting components right now. We have a transistor that we use in a SunSpec rapid shutdown device that has a 60-week lead time, 60, so over 1 year lead time. Processors right now, the processor and the display on this thing has a 1 year lead time. So we've made our best guess at a forecast, and that's what we're going to have to build to for a while. But yeah, that's a 600 volt, 120 amp charge controller. They do have Bluetooth built in, so the display on this has Bluetooth, and there'll be a cell phone app for that as well. And then there'll be a comms box to connect it to the internet. So all of the new products speak CAN bus, and if you want to connect them to the internet, there'll be a singular device that does that for you instead of having to connect every single device like the classic, works now. And I will also say, I don't have a slide for it here, but we're getting really close to done on our Bluetooth dongle for the Classic. So the actual Midnite Classic that we sell now, we have a plug-in Bluetooth dongle that will be pretty low cost. I don't exactly know where it's going to land, but I'm going to guess around 50, 60 bucks. And that will allow you to do Bluetooth with your cell phone. So moving on to the Barcelona, this is a 600 volt, 200 amp dual MPPT. So as far as I know, this is an industry first. This is the first time we've had a charge controller that can independently track two different PV arrays, or a PV array in a wind turbine, or a wind turbine in a hydro turbine. So it has two MPPT channels that can be coupled together as a singular MPPT, or uncoupled and become two independently tracking channels, each one capable of 100 amps output into the battery. Off-site beta on this one started around June of 2021. Again, we had engineers out here last week that were working on making the dual tracking work, uncoupling them and making them track independently from each other. One of the neat features of this is it uses all the same firmware. So if you've ever had a Classic and you go to update your Classic, it asks you which model you have. I have a 150, a 200, 250. On the new products, on the new charge controllers, it's one firmware file, and it's the same control board actually. So it just looks at it and says, am I a Hawke's Bay or am I a Barcelona? And it sets the parameters accordingly. So that makes it easier for you guys. Firmware updating will be through either the cell phone or the comms box. So if you don't have a comms box or whatever, you can connect it with Bluetooth and tell it to check for firmware update and update the firmware. It takes about 10 minutes to do either portion of it. This one will also be going to ETL at the same time the Hawke's Bay goes. And we probably start deploying our beta test. This says June 23rd, but I believe you're going to see this one lag about 4 weeks behind the Hawke's Bay, mostly just because there's a few more quirks in the firmware on this one that we want worked out before we send them off to you guys to play with. And this will have that same limited production for a little while. So then we move on to the inverter. This is probably, I would say, the most commonly asked question that we get is, when can we have one of your inverters? So the Rosie was sort of a secondary thought to the B17, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the engineer working on the Rosie has had his own inverter running actually in the engineering lab for about 3 years. So he's been able to take a lot of the work and firmware and everything else he's done and really make some big leaps with the Rosie. The Rosie looks like it's going to be about 7 kilowatts continuous. It is 120/240 split phase. Currently, it is selling to the grid, charging batteries, doing anti-islanding, everything it needs to do. And we're expecting off-site testing to commence probably about the end of July. They're telling me I should have one here about the end of July. I suspect this one will be probably more like Q1 of 2022 for actual sales, but I suspect you'll see beta testing applicants being contacted Q4 of this year is my guess on this one. This is coming along really nicely, actually. And anybody that hasn't seen, there's some videos up on our forum of these products starting some insane loads. Bobby's B17 module is 3 kilowatts, so it's 1,500 watts per leg, and he's had that starting you got it running 1,500 watts of incandescent light bulbs, and simultaneously they would start two large upright air compressors. So that would be, I forget the current at the time, but I want to say 6,000 watts on a 1,500 watt module. They just seem bulletproof, and they seem to have almost unlimited surge capability. We obviously will have to back that down and put a limit on it for obvious reasons, but the surge capability is really, really good on these inverters. Which does bring me to the B17 Inverter System. I believe this one is more like a year out. It's a lot more complicated from an engineering standpoint. Everything is in one box. So you get your charge controller, you get all your E-panel, you get your inverter modules, everything in one box. And they're all hot swappable modules. It's a lot more work for the engineers. So what we're seeing is like Mario is doing the individual stuff first, and then he'll come over here and work on his charge controller module. So we do expect to have off-site beta testing going by the end of the year, and then hopefully, within a year, these should be listed and in on the market. I didn't talk about the battery, but the lithium battery looks a lot like this, and it's meant to pair with the B17, and that's actually getting really close to off-site testing. The last I knew, we were probably about a month away from having a set of those here to start playing with and seeing what we can do with those. So that's kind of a really quick overview of the DIY line and all of our upcoming products. Well, not all of them, but any of them that are close enough, I think that we're talking about right at the moment. In a nutshell, I'm not sure if there's any other questions. So far, I think we've answered them all.
And if you do have any questions after the fact, think about the presentation a little more and go, oh, I wish I had asked that, just send those over to sales@midnitesolar.com, and we'll make sure to get you an answer on them.
All right, well, I guess if there's no other questions, we'll make that a short and sweet webinar. Like I say, they are pretty simple products, the DIY line. So, and that's by design. We really want the customer base to have an easy to use product that's dependable. So I appreciate everybody taking the time out of the afternoon, especially on a Friday, to come listen to me ramble. So don't be afraid to shout at us anytime. And I think we have one more question, possibly. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Anybody does have a question, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you all for taking some time Friday to come listen to me. Have a great day.